Hello, everyone. My name is Agatha. I'm a client advisor for Henley and Partners. I'm based in Miami right now. I transferred here from our Singapore office. And before I start the presentation, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about our firm. So we are a global company. We have offices on every continent. We are the pioneers of the industry. We've been around on the market for almost 3 decades now. We can help our clients with 50 plus investment migration options, and it goes for both citizenship and residency. So as you can see, the global presence. We recently expanded in the US, so we are growing very, very fast. We are aiming to have 100 offices worldwide and then probably stop there for a while because we will be able to support pretty much majority of the world once we hit 100 offices. And so there's two parts to the business. One is private client advisory, and that's where I sit. So I work directly with high net worth individuals and their families and advise to them on the most suitable solution, whether it's citizenship or residency planning. We also help our clients with citizenship by descent, which is huge in the US because a lot of people I speak with, they have some sort of background and ancestors in Europe, for example. So there is a way to also apply for and obtain a passport in Europe through your ancestors. Citizenship by merit is another trend in residency and citizenship planning. Real estate is self-explanatory. We also have a service called Henley and Partners Education, which is especially for clients, was designed for clients with small children. So we help them with the education planning globally. And Henley and Partners Concierge, which is pretty much any help with lifestyle planning. So it could be traveling, private jets, yachts, properties, hotels, restaurant reservations, golf, etc. And the second side to the business is government advisory. So we work directly with the governments and help them design and implement those programs. And because we are a global leader in residency and citizenship planning, and we're the pioneers of the industry, often governments reach out to us directly and they ask us to help them with designing and launching those programs. And some of the programs are actually only exclusive to Henley and Partners because we were the ones who helped design those programs. And this is, it might be obvious, but I wanted to also explain the difference between residency and citizenship. So for the US reference, residence would be a green card and citizenship is a passport. So residence can grant some rights to live, work, study, free public health care and free education in the country. But it often comes with conditions and requirements, such as they have to be renewed every few years. For example, some of them have to be renewed in person. They can often come with physical presence requirements. So to be able to renew a residency, someone would need to travel to the country. It could give some travel rights. The example would be European Union, where if someone has a golden visa or a residency in one country, they can travel visa-free to other countries in the European Union. Residence can be withdrawn, so it's not granted for life. Affect tax status, let's leave it because Americans are always taxed regardless of where they reside, unfortunately. And it may provide pathway to citizenship, meaning that someone is the same with the green card. So someone applies for a green card, They live in the US, they based in the US, and after 3 or 5 years, depending on the circumstances, they are eligible. They might be eligible to apply for the American passport. Citizenship, it's pretty much the only difference between citizenship and residency. The major difference is that with the citizenship, people can get the right to vote. But it also gives the full rights to live, to work, to study, and to get full access to the country. And it also it gives protection from the state. So if a citizen of any country outside of their country gets into any sort of trouble, is protected by the state, so they can go to any embassy of that country and basically seek help. Citizenship is usually also passed to the future generations, allows international travel, obviously visa-free travel. It most of the time cannot be withdrawn. So meaning that if someone gets a passport of another country, it's very unlikely that they will lose it. Next slide, please. And those are some of the reasons why our clients acquire an alternative residency or alternative passport. Global mobility would probably be number one. So a second passport or dual citizenship outside of the US could give visa-free access to countries where, for example, US passport has some sort of restrictions. It's, for example, very helpful for people who do business or travel a lot to places like the Middle East, where, for example, those countries are not necessarily friendly towards the US. So if someone has a second passport, they can just use that to travel if they don't want to let other people to know that they are traveling from the US, for example. Plan B and security would be another reason. So it's almost like you can compare it to having an insurance policy. We obviously get the insurance and we get the insurance plan when we are okay, when we are not sick. So in case when we fall sick, we are prepared. And it's the same with acquiring a second passport or residency. People do it. They don't necessarily immediately move to those countries. They don't fully relocate. They do it as a backup plan in case if the situation in the US, for example, makes them want to move. Children's education, another reason. A lot of clients in the US would apply, for example, for a European Union passport for their children. So when those kids reach the age when they are about to start high school or university, they will have access to, for example, USA, the whole European Union, and often other countries like Australia, New Zealand, or the UK. And if someone holds a passport of any European Union country, is the equivalent of 27 passports, meaning that those children, for example, can then study in those 27 countries, often for free. Another reason, succession planning, and diversification of their assets. So a lot of our clients, again, they don't necessarily do it for themselves, but they acquire an alternative passport or residency for their children and their grandchildren. So then they can, once they take over the family business, they can expand outside of the US. And it's very likely as well that the next generation will not live permanently in the US, or it's very likely that they might maybe want to split their time between 2 or 3 different countries, and having those, second residency or citizenship helps with that. And those are the most popular programs that US clients are applying for. And I also wanted to mention, so there's a small misconception. Majority of our clients or people who acquire those passports and residencies, they don't relocate, they don't immediately move, but they do it because they want to have an option. If they want to spend more than 90 days in Europe or 90 days in other parts of the world, they're not limited by by the passport, but they also have rights to spend unlimited time in those countries where they apply for citizenship or residencies. Okay, so let's start with Europe. So Portugal is definitely the top program globally. And what makes it so popular, and what makes it the most attractive is that Americans who apply for the golden visa in Portugal, they qualify to get a EU and Portuguese passport after 10 years without having to relocate. So they can still have their life in the US, have their businesses, have their families there. All they have to do is either invest 500,000 euros in a government-approved investment fund, or they can donate 250,000 euros to the government. And all they have to do is travel once a year for 7 days, or every 2 years for 14 days, for 10 years, to be able to be eligible to apply for a citizenship. So it's very, very, that's what makes it the most popular golden visa in the world, because it basically it's one of the most flexible as well. Portugal doesn't have the real estate investment option. It was removed from the golden visa, but it's still active. It's still open. I talk to a lot of people who say to me, "Oh, it's a shame that the Portugal golden visa ended," but it's not true. It's still open. It's still active, and it's still super popular. Another country would be Malta, which is very flexible. So the options are clients can either purchase a real estate, or they can sign a lease agreement for 5 years, become residents, and through that they can become a permanent resident of Malta. They don't have to reside there. There isn't any physical presence requirement unless they want to apply for a passport. So it's the opposite of Portugal. So they actually have to relocate and live there for 5 years to be able to apply for a citizenship in the future. Greece, this is very popular for Americans. To qualify, clients need to invest. It's starting from 250,000 euros in a real estate. It could be residential, it could be commercial, it could be a land, it could be pretty much anything, anywhere in the country. And the good thing is that they can put it in a rent. Basically, they can rent it out. So someone can invest buy a villa or a condo or a house, and then immediately rent it out and generate some revenue based on that. It also doesn't really have any physical presence requirements, so it gives access to the rest of the Europe. But if someone applies for a residency in Greece through this program, if they want to move there, they're not allowed to work. So this is a great program for someone who wants to have access in the European Union, who wants to maybe own a second house, a second home, and then spend summers there, or someone who just wants to have access, buy a real estate and rent it out. Italy, another very popular program, doesn't have a real estate option, meaning that to qualify, clients would need to either invest 250,000 euros in an Italian startup, or 500,000 euros in like a listed company in the stock market. Also very flexible, so they don't need to spend pretty much any time in Italy unless they want to qualify for a citizenship, and that means and that means that if they want to apply for a citizenship, they would need to live there for 10 years. That's the Middle East. So Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, very popular option as well. Maybe not recently because of the tensions that are happening in the region, but we believe it will definitely pick up. It has a real estate option starting from $280,000. It could be someone can buy one or two properties. It doesn't have to be one. Very flexible. They get granted. They get granted residency for 10 years in Dubai, meaning that after it's been approved, clients can either move there and live there, and they get the right to live and work and study and access to basically in the whole region, in the whole country, but they don't have to. So if they do it just as an investment, it can also be rented. So it's a good option for someone who wants to invest in the Middle East, want to get access to that region of the world, and generate some revenue on the rental. Central America, so two very popular countries. Costa Rica, the real estate option starting from 150,000, very flexible, also doesn't have a physical presence requirement. And if someone applies for that program, they can qualify for citizenship after 5 years, but they would need to visit often, spend at least 3 months a year, renew their permanent residency card. But good plan B, and it's very attractive for Americans because it's very close to, it's a direct flight from pretty much anywhere in the US, and good place to own a second home as well for the Americans. Panama, very similar, but the investment threshold starts from 100,000 US dollars. Same thing, citizenship after 5 years. Most of those programs, anyone has the ability to include immediate family, but often they can also include their parents and in-laws. So, and this is another country that is super, super popular for Americans because it's very close. So if someone gets a residency in Panama or Costa Rica, if anything happens in the US, if they don't want to they want to leave for the time being, and they don't want to make any drastic moves to, for example, travel and move to Dubai or Europe, they would choose Costa Rica or Panama. Caribbean. So there's currently 5 programs in the Caribbean that offer citizenship by investment programs. They're very straightforward. They're relatively fast as well. And usually clients can obtain a citizenship in those countries. There's 2 ways to do it. One is to make a donation contribution to the government, and it usually starts from $200,000. But for this presentation, I chose the 2 countries that actually offer the real estate investment options. So St. Kitts and Nevis is, I would say, the most popular, the fastest processing time. And the real estate option, the $325,000, it's a government approved project. So it's a timeshare investment or fractional share. So clients cannot go there and choose a villa or a house or a condo and then invest and own their own property. It needs to be government approved. So the easiest and the fastest way is to invest directly with the developer. And there's different ways of, that investment needs to be maintained for 5 or 7 years. And they can either choose an option to, for example, go and visit once a year for 2 weeks and use it for free, or they can be part of a rental pool. So depending on the occupancy of that hotel, they can generate a return on that investment, and that is paid to them at the end of every year of that investment. And Grenada, very similar. The investment in the real estate starts from $270,000 US dollars. It's the same investment, so it's a fractional share or a timeshare. But Grenada Not sure why it's not included in that slide. Grenada actually offers an investment that clients can get their own house. So they get the full title deeds and they basically own the property. And it starts from 350,000 US dollars. They can't really rent it out, but friends and family and anyone can use it whenever they want, because it's basically, they don't need to share it with anyone. The processing time, it's usually from 3 to 6 months. And those programs in the Caribbean are very popular for the Americans who, again, they don't necessarily want to move there. They don't want to relocate, but they want to have a second passport fast. So those are the reasons why Americans would apply for those programs. And they are not all the programs that Henley and Partners can help with, but those are the leading residency and citizenship programs that our clients would normally apply for. As I mentioned earlier, we can help with almost 60 programs, whether it's citizenship or residence globally. And I think that's it. Thank you so much, everyone. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to
take a screenshot of Agatha's contact information here. I think that could be helpful, and put it in your trusted advisors folders, because I guarantee when these questions come up, things change. I mean, almost to the point of white water, right? It's constantly changing, and what was today isn't tomorrow. When you were talking about Greece, it made me think about the change in Greece. Now, in the most popular areas of Greece, there's a larger minimum requirement, and if you can go into the areas that still allow for that 250,000 euro investment, you cannot rent those properties out. They have to be only used for owners or for family and friends. You're not allowed to rent them out. And that's only changed just recently. So there's constantly, changes back and forth. But I think what's most interesting for me to understand further, Agatha, is the citizenship. I understand that there's a process, and there's certain benchmarks you have to reach in order to obtain citizenship in these countries. Many of them have a requirement to be able to speak the language as well, and just like here in the U.S., having to take a test for citizenship. Like there's certain, as I mentioned before, the word benchmarks. But when I look at the idea then of, we're calling it residence for the residency program. So that's basically the green card here that we refer to as the green card program in the U.S. So can any of those residency programs merge into a citizenship offering in most of these countries? Are you finding that is a possibility, another pathway to citizenship?
So yes, so let me just answer first with the language requirements.
Yes.
So to apply for residency, so let's say the equivalent of a green card, there is no language, test required. However, most of the countries, if someone wants to convert the residency into citizenship, so they want to apply for a passport, often they would need to take the language test. Portugal has a language test, but I just wanted to also mention you don't have to be fluent in that language. It's level A2, meaning that if you travel to Portugal once a year for a week, and you go to restaurants, you stay in hotels, you take a taxi, or you walk around and you read what's around you, probably half of the vocabulary you would already know by just visiting Portugal. One thing that I didn't mention, if someone wants to be exempt from taking that test, they can complete 150 hours of Portuguese language online. So they can just do like a 150-hour course, and then they will be exempt from the test. And again, the test is only after 10 years of holding that residency. So you pretty much have like 10 years to learn the basic Portuguese, which I think regardless of someone's skills. I think it's very, very feasible, and it's not a big deal. If someone is applying for citizenship in Malta is an ex-British colony, so English is an official language. So if you're applying from the US, you don't have to take a language test. And what was the second? So that was so if they convert into citizenship. So
Right.
I mentioned, so Portugal, what makes Portugal the most popular and why hundreds of thousands of people apply every year is because it's the currently only European country that allows that eligibility for citizenship, and you don't have to move there. So you can still be based outside of Portugal. All you have to do is make that initial investment, hold it for 5 years, convert it into permanent residency, and hold permanent residency for 5 years, and then you're eligible for the citizenship. But you don't have to live there, you don't have to move there, you just have to visit once a year. All the other countries like Greece, Italy, Malta, Latvia, they do have a pathway to citizenship, but you need to be a legal resident for 5, 7, or 10 years, meaning that you actually have to move there and become a tax resident and so on. And then some of them also have the language test.
Right. The Golden Visa program, I think it's interesting to note that as long as you own a property, you will have that golden visa. But if you sell your property, your golden visa goes away too. I mean, you could buy another property, certainly, but you always have to have some form of, you have to have the ownership.
Have the investment, yes. So if it's, for example, in Greece, you buy a property and through that investment, you obtain the golden visa, a residency. You have to hold that investment and you have to keep that property for as long as you want to hold residency, because if you get rid of it, if you sell it, for example, this will jeopardize. So basically, you will lose that access. I think Dean.
Dean, unmute yourself. Go ahead. We just saw you there.
That was actually one of my questions. Was it's easy to always bring money into any country. It's not always easy to take it out. So
I mean, it's easy. It's easy because it's your property or it's your investment or it's your money. But you will jeopardize, the years of that residency, or permanent residency that you held.
So there are financial ways to engineer this, and I wanted to see if you had any insight on that. So let's say, for the sake of argument, let's say Greece, someone buys a property, they do bring their cash into the country. They do get their visa, and at some point, because like you mentioned, they can't really rent out that space. They have to live in it, or they have to use it themselves. But there are other ways that you can kind of do that, and that could be like borrowing against it, pulling the cash out, and buying another property that you can then rent, or that you can somehow move around into other European countries. So what are the stipulations on that?
So it is an option, but most of the time, before you sell it, is any country, make sure that you invest at least that amount, the minimum threshold. Because if you own a property, for example, Greece starts from 250,000.
Yeah.
If you want to sell it and buy another one and you want to maintain that golden visa in Greece, you have to make sure that it's also worth 250,000 euros.
I guess the other part, and this goes for other countries as well, the question is, do all countries kind of apply it pretty much uniformly? Or like, for example, let's say I do invest 250,000 or 100,000 in Panama. Right. Mm-hmm. And I buy a piece of property and I develop it, or I have it developed. And then let's say it's appreciated by 100%. If I pull my initial $100,000 out, would I then still have the right as if I did not? or
Yes,
are there other?
no. So usually, again, most of those countries, it's the same with if you make an investment in a fund or if you invest in, the stock market. The initial investment is what qualifies you for that visa. So if you, for some reason, lose money below it doesn't jeopardize your your status. So the initial investment, when you qualify and when you apply and when we submit that application for you, is the most important and it's crucial. And whatever happens with that investment in the future, it's obviously out of your control. So you still remain that residency or permanent residency or whatever you applied for.
We do have a question in the chat. Ramona Ruskos, who is our professional liaison to our global committee over at Main Street, she has just gotten a message from a Main Street member looking for a realtor familiar with real estate process in Pakistan. Their client has a property they would like to sell there in the future. Does anyone have a connection that she could refer them to? So I don't personally. I thought we had actually a committee member that was already familiar with or from Pakistan. Wouldn't that be Shireen?
Yes, Masha, Shireen.
Yeah, there you are. Okay.
Yeah, Shireen would be the person.
She would be the person that
of course, Shireen. This is what happens when you can't think.
More coffee.
But I want to make
I haven't had coffee. That's the problem.
I want to make a comment about language. So when I went for my citizenship test, my English proficiency was to write a sentence that said, "I want to go to work." I wrote it and I never went to work. I became a realtor.
Oh, you're funny.
No, seriously, that's what it said. I want to go to work.
That was all you had to do. Good to know.
Yeah.
Because I've been sweating over the idea of learning another language. I barely speak this one.
It's interesting. No, it's interesting. We talk about languages. I was at my wife and I were at this is a group in Naperville, and it's an AI group. So I was sitting with all these folks that are talking about things out of my league. Anyway, it was very interesting. But later on, so my wife introduced herself. She's a pilot. Her field was in education at a medical association, and so there was a young man who came over, and then he said, "Yeah, I work for a medical association," and he works for a Pakistani medical association. What is very interesting, he grew up here. He's of Korean descent, and he spoke a little bit of Urdu, which is amazing. I mean, I could speak it at one time, but I forgot most of it. And I thought to myself, man, if you want to learn something, it's, just put your head to it. Language. Wow, great program. Thank you very much. Now I'm thinking, recently I saw you somewhere doing a presentation. I can't remember where. Was it for NAR?
Was it asking me, Henley and Partners?
Yes.
It's for me, it's impossible to track what presentations we do because we pretty much, do a presentation every day or even a few.
Right.
With the amount of offices that we have globally and the amount of the advisors that work for us, we do organize, like conferences. We co-host a lot of events with, tax attorneys, single family offices, private banks, wealth management firms. So there's always a presentation that Henley, is doing probably every day. So
Marsha knows everybody, so it's very good to get you. Thank you.
I just hijack other presentations and bring people in from there. I do have a little tickler for you here. There is, I took this off of one of your presentations, Agatha. Let me see if I can find it. It's a term that a lot of us may not know what. So what is investment migration? So anybody want to take a stab at that? What is an investment migration?
So investment migration is basically that the industry, which is still very niche, that describes that any individual can invest in another country, and through that investment they can obtain a residency, permanent residency, or citizenship. So that's like in one sentence, investment migration. So it's citizenship and residency planning, basically, and everything that is associated with that.
Perfect.
I had a
go ahead.
question. As far as education goes, because in my head, I would love my kid to go to a specific school. It's the Institut Le Rosey in Switzerland. How does that work from the education perspective on sending them the requirements and obviously getting residency, maybe even passport in Switzerland? The process, just high level.
Switzerland, a very interesting program. It was originally designed, Henley & Partners was involved with that program as well. It was originally designed for people who wanted to retire in Switzerland, or people who just want to maybe again have a second home, or they just want to spend time in Switzerland. It doesn't allow you to work, doesn't allow you to be employed. So it's not really like programs in like the Golden Visa in Portugal that basically gives you like the full right to do whatever you want in the country. It's more of people who want to diversify their assets as well. So, obviously as a resident, you will be able to open a bank account there, and you can move some of your assets there. You can invest in a real estate. And that program is based on, you need to commit to pay a annual lump sum in taxes, regardless of how much money you make, where you make the money. So it's not based on your net worth or it's basically you commit depending on the canton. So depending on the region of Switzerland, if you choose, for example, where Zurich or Geneva is, here is the amount that the government will ask you to pay every year. It starts from, I think it's 250,000 Swiss francs, which I think right now it's around like 300 something $300,000 US a year. So it's not really a program for everyone, and the fact that it's so limited as well, that it doesn't really allow you to do anything. So this wouldn't be an option, I think, if you want, for example, your kids to go to school there, unless, but were you thinking of moving to Switzerland?
That's the retirement portion, which you hit off. That's my dream, is to, retire there. But would it be double taxation? So in theory, if I have my business operations in the US, would I be paying taxes in both, essentially?
In Switzerland, yes, if you spend more than 6 months a year there.
Oh, okay. So as long as I'm...
Yeah.
Doesn't Switzerland have a signed treaty, a tax treaty with the U.S.?
Again, I'm not a tax advisor, so I don't want to get into those details. But usually, like the rule of thumb is, if you spend more than 183 days a year in a country, it automatically makes you a tax resident. But again, for Americans, it's not really. It wouldn't be a reason, number one, for Americans to apply for those passports and residencies, because you will be taxed even if you move to a country that with lower taxes, you're still taxed in the US. So it's not really, something that's not really the motivation of Americans.
Yeah, but I'm not certain about Switzerland, but I know in other countries, definitely Greece, because I am a dual citizen. You do not get double taxed because you get a tax credit.
Your world income, don't you?
You do. Well, if you change your residency, you have I think the first, and don't quote me on this, I think it's like 180,000 per family, or 100 or 200,000 per family. It's tax exempt, the first, and then if you change your domicile. But if you don't change your domicile, whatever, if you make income in another country, you do pay tax there. You still have to declare it here.
Right.
But you get a tax credit, and you also can expense a lot of your travel and even your hotel and your rental car.
But for the time being, then, let's say if I'm spending less than 6 months there, what are the options as far as getting him into the school there potentially?
Well, Dimitri, I have another option for you. We had moved to Crete for 2 years. My daughter went to the European school there, and it's a European baccalaureate, and it's public, and you can travel and go to any EB school throughout Europe or anywhere in the world that's an EB school, even for just a semester. So if you want to actually travel and you have a domicile or a place in one country, if you can find an exchange program with another EB school, and your kid learns 4 languages by the time they're 18.
Yeah,
and it's a great program.
Yeah. My son actually speaks 7 languages, and it was through an international baccalaureate program here. And I can't really give credit to the schools. The kid just give your kid an instrument. It's amazing what parts of the brain it opens up and how quickly they can, assimilate languages. It's really incredible. But I so appreciate you, Agatha. I'm still going to always call you Agatha.
It's okay. I accept both. So and I like both. So
thank you so much. There's so much more for us to learn and to discuss with unique situations like the one that I'm going to be checking with you offline for my client who's trying to figure out how to get here with ease. Which I don't know that there is an easy way. Nothing good is easy is what I always say, right? It can't really be easy. But you certainly make it seamless when we understand the process and we have you as the resource. So that's the most important thing for us, not to overstep, stay in our lane and rely on our resources. And you are a valued resource for me and for all of us. So again, thank you so much. Getty, I don't know if we're going to have time to do any wants and needs. I know I'm going to scoot too. We're a small group, so maybe we're not going to do that this session.
I think we're good to go. Yep.
Yeah, I think so too. So again, Agatha, thank you. Thank you so much. And all of you that joined us today. And remember to go back and revisit this recording. That's one of the beauties of CGBN.
Thank you so much. Right. Thanks for allowing me to do that. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to send me an email, or if you have any clients who need my assistance, I'm also happy to help. So don't be shy.